So today we are talking about Chapter 6, which is application software. First, we've got a few different types of software. There is, I guess we start with software. What is it? It's a set of instructions that direct the computer how to complete a task. All right, so everything your computer does is some sort of software in a long way. All right. We've taken that general description, we've broken it into 4 different subjects or top sections. We have system software. This helps the user, hardware, and application software to interact and function together. So if you are interacting with some hardware and stuff like that, you're probably using the system software. These types of computer software allow an environment or platform for other software and applications to work in. So it's kind of like the overarching thing. So you might want to argue that the operating system would be like the main system software with a whole bunch of subsystem softwares in it, like Task Manager and File Explorer and those types of things. So that is going to be your system software. Next, we have programming software, and this type of software is what is not used by end users, but it's used for programming. So if you're the person who is actually writing the code, this always makes me laugh. As a programmer, you're writing code in a different program. kind of one of those things. It's like, okay, so for me to write my code, someone else had to write code before me. Kind of crazy when you think about it that way. Unless you were the person like writing the operating system, and then even then you might still be using someone else's code. So it's kind of one of those things that makes me laugh. So if you are programming microcontrollers in the world of Arduino, you might be using the Arduino IDE. You might be using Robot C. You might be using Python. There's a boatload of different softwares out there, and that's part of the problem. As far as I'm concerned, it comes back to the wonderful thing of nothing is truly universal, right? It's not like, okay, we are going to have one programming language and it's going to be C. No, we've got C, we've got C++, we've got Python, we've got HTML, we've got PHP. It's like all these slightly different variations. And for the most part, most of them do the exact same thing. It's just, well, I want to do it this way, and someone thought that would be a better system, so they wrote it that way, and then someone else said, no, that's good, but not as good as I want, so they tweaked it again. We now have all these slight variations. The good news is, if you ever get into programming, once you understand how to program, it really doesn't matter what language you're in. They're all variations. It's like, okay, how do I print something to the screen? And in this one, it's the print command, and that one's it's set screen command, or whatever the case is. So they're all variations. But once you kind of understand the structure and you do have to learn the syntax for the new program that you're trying to, or language you're trying to use. But other than that, it's pretty universal what you're trying to do, which is nice. Next, we have application software, also known as apps. And these are what we, as an average person, are going to engage with the most. These types of computer software are productive end-user programs that help you perform tasks. So like Microsoft Office would be a application software. On your phone, Flappy Bird, if any of you guys are still playing Flappy Bird, that would be a application software. Anyone in here still playing Flappy Bird? One person maybe. No one wanting to really admit to it. I never really got into Flappy Bird. Never truly understood it. I played it for a little bit. I'm like, I don't get it. Don't. That's okay. This does help. So the software said helps you enable to develop documents. So it said documents, spreadsheets, play games, find information on the internet, calculator apps. All right. As I don't know, I haven't told you guys this until other class. It is worth your money to spend like $2 or $3 on an app store, whichever app store it is you have, to get a good calculator on your phone. The standard calculator app, as far as I'm concerned, on every phone is junk. It's worth a few bucks to buy a good one that actually has like memory and you can do functions and sign-ons and things like that. So I highly suggest that you maybe invest or at least find one that's ad-based. Next, we have driver software. And this is often classified as one of the types of system software. They operate and control devices and peripheral plugs into your computer. So we've talked about drivers a little bit. This is the translator, right? It's Windows says, hey, printer, I need you to do something. And the driver then converts that into a language that the printer actually understands. All right, so a driver is just a translator for, I'm getting these signals from the USB, which is telling me this, and I'm going to convert that so Windows understands it as this. All right. And while AI is wonderful, we've also talked about how drivers are a literal pain in the rear end when they don't work. Like, why isn't this working? Why does my mouse not work? And like, there's a driver and there's software is installed, but software is not detecting it. And then you find out that the newest version of software doesn't use the driver that you have, so you have to find a new driver for it. Or this driver isn't working correctly, or keeps crashing my computer, even though it's said to be perfectly functional. It's this like never-ending game is really what it comes down to. So it's not the end of the world. It is something that you learn to deal with, but it's definitely, if you understand drivers and like where to find them, remember device manager is my suggestion, your life gets a little bit better. Windows has gotten a lot better with them. I will say that as well. Um, as long as you've got a good internet connection, Windows has become much better about dealing with drivers and finding them for you and things like that. So that's good. So all software is going to fall into a few categories, really proprietary and open source. They should all fall into one of those two. Proprietary has some sort of license with it. All right. So basically, like Microsoft Office, that is a proprietary software. Not anybody can just use it. You have to have a license that you have bought and/or you are paying through for with your school registration here. So you all are registered. You all have access to Microsoft Office. I've talked about this before, but if you haven't already, you can install Office on your home computers. I think you get like 3 computers that you can install Office on using your one email address, which is very nice. If not that, you can have it on a whole bunch, and it's just you only can access it on one at a time. I'm not sure which way it is. So anyway, that's proprietary. Next, we have software, and this is software. The software source code is published and made available to the public. All right. This is actually my preference. I really like open source software. A, because I don't have to pay for it. I'm a big fan of not having to pay for things if I don't have to. B, because I find that, people in the community, this is like one of those like good-hearted things. It's like, I'm not doing this for any reason. I am doing this purely because I think this is an awesome product and I want to help support it type of thing. Or I wrote this because I needed it, and instead of me saying, hey, Bob, you want to buy this for $50? I'm just going, hey, world, here you go. Have access to it. Use it as mostly you like. All right, now, most open source licenses do have a EULA with it, which is the end user license agreement, which basically says, like, you can't use this, you can't sell this. You can use it for free, you can tweak it, but you can't sell this is really what it comes down to. So, as I said, this can be copied, it can be modified, it can even be redistributed. So if you're like, you know what, I like Firefox, but I really want to be able to do X, Y, Z, P, and Q, you could download the source code for Firefox, add your own code to it, make sure it runs correctly, and then say, okay, world, here is Firefox Bets version, we'll go with. And I've added, X, Y, Z, P, and Q to it, all right? Many of these open source softwares, you'll be able to actually put requests in. So you can be like, hey, I really want this functionality. And as long as enough people are looking for that, they can go, oh, okay, that sounds like a great idea. With D2L, it's one of those. So D2L is officially open source. And I think there's a place that as a teacher, I can go on and request a feature, and I can also go on and vote on features that other people have requested. And once features get enough votes, that's when D2L starts actually taking them seriously, going, okay, I'm going to implement this somehow, some way. So very, very useful option. If you really do not like Microsoft Office because you don't want to pay for the license, OpenOffice is an alternative there for you. And most programs out there do have some sort of open source alternative. I'm not going to say all. Obviously, OpenOffice for Microsoft Office, Firefox is actually open source. You've got GIMP for Photoshop equivalent. You have Inkscape for SVGs, which is, I believe, Illustrator. There are video editors that are free open source. There's, again, basically anything you want to do. There are open source versions. The problem is now you have to learn said open source version where in the class you're taking, they may not be using that. So a little bit of give and take going on. Unluckily, industry is not often using the open source variety. They much prefer to have the, I don't know why they prefer it, but I don't know if it's just they're used to it, but they normally use the commercially licensed, the proprietary ones. Have their licenses, and man, some of those license fees are absolutely ridiculous. If you ever look at like a license for AutoCAD, it's a few $1,000s a year, I believe, just to be able to draw CAD 2D. I mean, I guess officially does 3D, but it's like, nope, I don't want to do that. And then I do have a third type up there, which is your cloud. And so we have cloud computing, which makes it convenient to access your data from different places and devices. We've already talked about this to some extent last class, and 2 or 3 classes ago, we also talked about the whole wonderful world of the cloud. And it is overall a great thing for you. But it is not the perfect solution. And this This is always one of those interesting things that we have in the world we live in. It's like, all right, you want to listen to music. How many of you guys would rather buy a CD or buy the album off of whatever service you prefer versus subscribe to Pandora? How many people would rather buy the CD? One person, two, maybe. How many would rather subscribe to Pandora? One, two. I got a lot of not people voting, which is fine. It's just kind of interesting. We are moving to this world of where you don't own much, right? If you think about that, it's like, oh, I bought the music on from Apple or from wherever, you own it. I mean, officially, if you actually buy it from Apple or Google, you own it for your lifetime, and then once you pass, I think officially you lose that license. It's not something that you can pass down to your kids. Where if you buy the CD, you can pass that down to your kids all you like. 12 generations from now could still have that CD and put it in a CD player and still listen to music as long as it's not too scratched up and whatnot. So it's just kind of interesting to see how we've progressed to this not owning things but subscribing to things world. Personally, I hate it. I was ready to buy Adobe. I was like, okay, I'm to a point where I think I'm starting to use Adobe Photoshop and Inkscape and things, or Illustrator enough. Like, I'm gonna buy it. Not an option anymore. Only subscriptions. I'm like, nope, sorry, Adobe, you just lost $2,000 or whatever the cost it was going to be, because I am not paying you $50 a month or whatever the magic number is. I do not use it often enough every month. Like, I use it like a day here and a day there, so $50 a month. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna give you $25 a month or $25 each time I use it when I use it for like an hour, maybe two at a shot. Like, just not worth the $50 a month. I will go back to the open source stuff. But it was just kind of interesting to see that. Anyway, we have also off the whole infrastructure as a service thing. So it enables businesses to use servers in the cloud rather than purchasing and maintaining servers. And that's key. Small businesses, buying a big server, that's going to be a lot of money. And it's like, I have a need for this, but I don't have the finances for it. And that's where the infrastructure as a service comes in. It's like, okay, we'll rent it to you for, cheaper per month than you might be able to buy it, get a loan or whatever. And that the big benefit there is it's not your hardware. So when it dies and craps out, life is easier. Someone told me this, and I don't know how true it was. Netflix doesn't own any of its servers. It is hosting it through Amazon Web Servers. All right. Netflix burns out one of their servers like every 5 minutes or something like that. Like, they're running them so hard and they're getting so hot that the hardware just can't keep up. And they burn them out. But because they're leasing them or whatever through Amazon, Amazon is the one basically footing the bill to replace them. Kind of an interesting thing. It's like, okay, Amazon or Netflix has learned, it's not our hardware, we'll beat it up and we'll just replace it for us. So kind of an interesting way to look at things there. And then SaaS, we've already talked about that. So, all right, when it comes to Office suites and applications, you have some different office options. We've got Microsoft Office, which we've already talked about. Apple has Apple productivity apps. I don't know how many of you knew that, but it does have some productivity apps built in. You have Google G Suite apps now. Those are your sheets, slides, docs, and I forget what Excel is. No, that tells us sheets. I think that's it. But anyway, Google has its own version built into Google Drive. All right. Until I moved all my stuff to HTC's OneDrive, Google Drive was my go-to location for things. My wife still basically does everything in Google Drive. She just finds it so much more convenient than having to open something in Word on a computer and then upload it and things like that. She just does everything. She's like, I need to write a document. She opens up Google Sheets or Drive, Docs, that one. She doesn't actually use Microsoft Office very much anymore. Instead, Apache Open Office, we've already talked about that. Now, later this semester, so this is chapter 6, we've got 2 more chapters, and then we're into the wonderful world of Microsoft Office that we're going to be diving into. So we've got word processors, and this enables you to create, edit, and format text documents. These documents may contain images. All right, you can insert images into these documents. And the computer screen displays a document layout as if it were printed, which is very convenient for most people. So they want to say, okay, when I print this, this is what I'm going to see. All right. You may have formatting and layout options as well as tools to assist you in spelling, grammar, and collaboration. So there are a lot of different options out there for you is really what it comes down to. Yeah. Word processors have come a long way, let me tell you that. All right. I still miss in word processor that you have installed on your computer some of the functionality that we have built into text messaging nowadays. You guys, you're like, I spelled a word, but I was one letter off, and it just autocorrects it for you. I really miss that in Word documents. I wish Word would just be like, yep, we fixed that for you. Maybe highlight it so I know to quick look at it to make sure it is the right word. But I really wish it would just autocorrect, not make me click on things. So that's kind of annoying. Grammar, great. How many of you guys suck at spelling? Grammar, yeah, me too. You don't want me writing things. Even just writing emails to you guys, I'm sorry if you see errors in them. Especially if I'm on my phone responding to you guys. There's almost guaranteed to be at least one grammatical error there, so I'm sorry. I do my best to go back and fix them, but I can't tell you how many times I've typed my message, went, I don't see anything red, and hit send, and then I come back a day later and read it and went, wow, I really screwed that one up. But it's out there, so I'm just gonna own it. All right. Next, we have spreadsheets. This enables you to create electronic worksheets with numbers, formulas, and functions. How many of you guys have truly used Excel before? To its real purpose? Getting one hand, two maybe. Excel is probably the hardest application that we'll be teaching you guys this semester. And it's really not that bad once you understand, oh, this is what I'm supposed to use it for. I'm not just supposed to use it to make a table and put, column A, column B, column C. I can actually do math and look for averages and all sorts of crazy things. It is a very powerful tool. I treat Excel like a glorified calculator. When I need a calculator, I know it's going to be more than just me typing one thing in. I go to Excel for it. I just open up Excel, and that is my calculator because it is the most powerful calculator I've ever used. And it's very easy to use once you learn how to use it. So that's kind of nice. So you can organize the data in cells, which are intersections of a row and a column. You can sort, filter, and rearrange data to help you analyze the numbers, which is really convenient. You have three-dimensional spreadsheets, which enable you to link multiple worksheets together. Now we're starting to get really complex. I think there's a whole class here, HCC, on Excel. This, we're just kind of doing an introduction. I think there's 2 chapters in your textbook on Excel, maybe 3, but I think it's 2. We're just kind of doing an introduction. You go to that other Excel class, and that's a real deep dive. So just fair warning. You can also create charts. That's another thing that Excel is great for, is making pie charts and line charts and all this other stuff to do, and just to kind of try to process your data. So Excel spreadsheets are actually meant there to process data. It's not there just to make things look pretty. It's for calculations and looking for trends and things and trying to figure out why certain things have happened. Next, we've got presentation applications like PowerPoint, which is what you lovely folks are looking at right now up on the screen. This enables you to engage an audience in media-rich slide presentations. I know these slides are not very media-rich. All right. The one thing I will warn you guys, I normally try to have a picture in every slide. In this PowerPoint, I failed miserably. But I will warn you guys, don't go overkill your PowerPoints. All right. Later this semester, when we get the second to last week, you guys will be doing the worst PowerPoint ever assignment, or there's a PowerPoint that I don't remember who made, but it is horrific. It's like flashy this and transition this, and this is a different transition. This is an animation and text on white, so you can't actually read the text. It's just a horrible PowerPoint, and you guys are gonna have to fix it, suckers. No, it's really not that bad. But anyway, you don't want to go overkill with your PowerPoints. I used to be a bit more. I used to have every bullet I'd have to hit the space bar and bring up the next point and whatnot. A, I got tired of it. B, you all hated me doing it because then you had to you couldn't just write all the information down real quick. Where really, if you guys haven't noticed, I don't have a lot of information on the screen. I have bullet points. I'm using those bullet points to help guide me. Now, I do have notes that have a lot more information, but up on the screen is just bullet points. It's just kind of the main talking points for me. So I don't have to, have this a paragraph of information on the screen. And if I did, why would I be here? Y'all could just go home and read my PowerPoint, and it'd be just the same as me sitting here talking to you. So me going off on my little tangents based on these topics is really what makes this almost, I would say, more enjoyable. Because I don't know about you guys, I hate it when someone gives a presentation and all they do is read off the PowerPoint slide. As I said, it's why am I? But anyway, presentations can include text, graphics, video, audio, emojis, animations, transitions. Man, the list is just kind of endless there. Next, we go into database. How many of you guys have used Microsoft Access before? Yeah, that was what I expected. We have 1 chapter on Microsoft Access. That's the last chapter that you guys will do this semester. And even so, it is not going to be the standard chapter because if you have a Mac, your license that you get from HTC does not include Access on a Mac. It includes Access on a PC, but not on a Mac. So we've had to do more simulation-based stuff for the Access one than the normal assignments you'll be doing. But anyway, databases they organize facts about people, places, things, or events. A DBMS, a database management system, controls how collection of data are stored, organized, retrieved, and secured. All right. So if we were to go into HTC servers, there'd be a database of everyone's name, and next to your name would be your age, probably. Next to that would be your birth date. Next to that would be your address. Then your phone number. Then different phone number. Then your parents' phone number, or whatever information they have on you. And they just have column after column after column. So when they need access to something, they can look it up all in this one database. I'm actually kind of curious how large this database actually is. Since HTC started, I'm assuming. Let me phrase that. Since HTC started issuing ID numbers, we are in I think almost 400,000 people have come to HTC. I don't know how far back they keep the database going, but if they have database all the way back to there, that's a lot of information that they're storing. So that'd be kind of interesting. And then the last thing up in there is the Personal Information Manager. Anyone have any idea what the heck a PIM is? Yeah, before I started teaching this class, I was like, I don't know what that is. Right. But it's actually something very simple that you all use. Basically, Gmail is a PIM. It's got your email. It's got your calendar. It's got your contacts. It's got your tasks. It's got whatever those personal things that you need to keep track of are. All right, so if you're in Apple world, you've got Apple's going to be your PIM, Google's your PIM. You could have a separate PIM. Yahoo could probably do it for you. All right, but I guess Google and Apple are probably the two biggest PIMs out there that people are working with. Personally, if you guys haven't looked into Google Tasks, I actually really enjoy it. It's a nice thing that you can add, not calendar. I mean, it will actually integrate into Google Calendar, but it's a nice add-on function for you can actually put dates to tasks. Once you finish it, you can check it off so the annoying notification goes away and doesn't come back, and you can do repetitive things and things like that. So kind of nice. Now, when it comes to home and educational software, I just have a list up on the screen. I'm sorry, but these are all things that you might use at your house. All right. Next one's gonna be business, but travel stuff, genealogy, home improvement, gardening, hobbies, video games, puzzles, simulations, finance software, tax prep. Here I am just reading off the screen. But anyway, it's just a list. Now, obviously, your stuff goes on from here. Tax prep and finance software might not be something that you guys are actually have dealt with yet. All right. I find it very interesting, and I haven't surveyed this, and I haven't actually looked up any polls on this. But it's like, you look at my parents' generation, maybe your grandparents at this point, I don't know. And it's like they tracked every penny going in and out of their bank accounts. In a little book. They'd write a check, in the book they'd write, I wrote a check of this amount to this person. So that way they could balance their checkbook at the end of the month. My parents still balance the checkbook at the end of the month. Me, I look through my bank account statements and I go, yep, all those things are supposed to come out. I'm good. Not saying that's a good thing that I don't balance my checkbook, but I'm just saying it is something that I've never actually done. So kind of interesting to me to see how we've changed from you balancing your checkbook manually because you didn't have access to the internet, the digital resources, being able to see all the transactions happening on the internet. So it's kind of a different world with the whole finance software things. There is also some good finance software out there for managing your money. There are some web-based ones. There are some downloadable ones. It really, again, comes to your personal preference and what you like. But if you have issues managing your money, that's probably something worth looking into. When it comes to the world of business software, we now have accounting software, which is used to track expenses and taxes within a business. I've never ran my own personal business. I can't imagine what is all involved with that. Now, I do imagine that accounting software is going to be key because trying to figure all this out is going to be a royal pain in the butt. So some common activities in accounting software are tracking expenses, calculating payroll, invoicing, managing inventory, those types of things. And reports can be generated to assist in decision-making and reporting, such as for tax returns. So every week you might say, okay, let's see how much money we made, how much money did we spend, are we in the hole, are we in the green, red, blue, what are we at, type of thing. So we can start trying to make decisions about next week or next month, what's going on. Next, we've got some document management systems, DMS. This is the ability to save, share, search, and audit electronic documents, which is an important task in business. DMS store documents on a server or on the web and provide security and access to the business documents. A good DMS system you might scan every receipt that you get for your company, so that way it digitizes it for you. It's been a while since I've seen those ads, but a few years ago, 5 maybe, whatever, I don't know. Someone was advertising this little receipt scanner that you put on your desk, and you would you'd come home, you just drop your receipt in it, and it would scan the receipt for you, so it would digitize it, so you didn't have to keep the paper copy if you wanted it. Said it's been a long time since I've seen those commercials, but some of them even started to advertise that they were doing optical character recognition on them. So they're actually reading the text so they could then say, oh, that's a Lowe's receipt. That belongs in home improvement. Or that's a this receipt. That goes in the grocery category, those types of things. So kind of an interesting one there. Lastly, we have project management software, and this enables you to organize projects. Using this type of application software, you can monitor the budget, schedule activities, and collaborate with members of the team. All right. All of you have completed in some team activity before, some writing document, some physics project, whatever it is. I'm assuming you've all participated. You've all at least been assigned one, I guarantee, in your years, unless you're homeschooled, then maybe not. Hopefully then it's you and your brother or sister being a team member, at least just cleaning up. But trying to track a long-term project and actually have like deadlines for things and have everybody be able to understand it is a challenge. All right. So the PMS software that does this is near like required, especially when you start getting into some really complex projects. And there are all sorts of different ones out there. I've never used one personally, but from what I've seen of them, they are very impressive software for managing large groups of people to make sure the tasks get done on time, not hanging out doing whatever. All right. That takes us to audio video software. All right. AV. We all do it. We all consume it, at least. All right. Whether that is some sort of document that you are reading, watching a YouTube video, you're listening to a podcast or music, whatever it is, you're doing AV stuff. All right. So the first part of that is going to be multimedia, which this integrates text and media. Hence the term multi, or multiple things, media. Media includes graphic, video, animation, and sound. You can find multimedia in businesses, advertising, educational programs, as well as in entertainment. All right, I mean, you just like close your eyes and open it, and bam, there's media there. There's some poster on the wall. There's some song playing on the radio. I'm not going to call the server rack up there media, but I mean it does make a wonderful humming sound, doesn't it? All right. So anyway, but media, we're all consuming it. Now, the downside to media, from a business standpoint, is media consumes large amounts of computer storage space. All right. Again, I always go back to Linus Tech Tips because he's a huge YouTuber, but he's got petabytes of storage to handle all of their video that they have. Now, mind you, after they cut their YouTube video together and post it up on YouTube, they could probably dump all the old stock footage, especially after a year or two of them not using it. But they don't, so they just keep it around for when they need it. But man, they have petabytes. Like, you think terabytes are a lot? It's like, no, screw terabytes, go to petabytes, thousands of terabytes of storage. It's not something that you're going to be dealing with. That I have 4 terabytes hard drives, and most of that is pictures, movies, and music. With movies, or videos, I should say, being the largest portion of that, just because of how many, it's like, oh, you download a video file, or, whatever, and it's like, that's a 4 gigabyte file. We talked about Blu-ray drives. DVDs are 4 gig or 8 gig, depending on if they're single or dual layer. You go to Blu-rays, I forget what they were, like 40 gigs, I think, what a Blu-ray was. Like, man, think about why we need a Blu-ray drive now. Think about how large that video file is that you're watching your movie off of. That thing is just stinking huge. All right, now this does lead us to the wonderful world of Codex. Codecs are used to compress and decompress the files. So when you have an MP3 file, that is, your computer doesn't know what to do with it, unless it has the codec that explains to it how an MP3 file actually works. So this is kind of a software in itself. The compression algorithms reduce the size and enable the efficient transfer of the files between computers and the internet. All right. So MP3 is one. AAC is another common audio file codec. MP4 and XVID are used for videos. You might also see MKV, I believe, is another one that you might see with videos. I believe that's what OBS records in by default, which is what I'm recording with right now. So there are all different codecs out there. The problem is anytime you use a codec and you're changing it, and you're compressing it, you are losing information. So that is definitely something that you want to think about. You want to make sure that you're not compressing the living daylights out of something. I think I told you guys a story earlier this semester about someone who they zipped all their files. And then once they had a whole bunch of zips, they would zip all the zips. And then once they had a whole bunch of those compressed zips, they'd do it again. So they had like 4 or 5 layers of zips inside zips inside zips. And by doing that, when they finally got to like the last thing, they opened a Word document, it was missing information because they had compressed it too many times and it had lost too much information. So you want to be kind of careful when it comes to what codec you're using. Yes, codecs are great because they make your file smaller, but you have to be careful about what am I losing by doing this. You have desktop publishing software. This is programs that are used to create multimedia newsletters, product catalogs, advertising brochures, and much, much more. All right, this would be like Illustrator or InDesign, those types of things. Actually, probably more InDesign than Illustrator. All right. One of the things I did back when I was in undergrad with InDesign was we actually had to do a mailer. So we had to make a little like advertisement like thing. Any of you guys gotten a letter from a college saying like, "Come here, George," and it has your name printed on it? That was done with something like InDesign, where they developed the general overall system, and then they have this database that they said, hey, InDesign, print this, use this database. Column 1 is this, column 2 is this, column 3 is this. So when they printed it, they were able just to hit print. They designed it once, and it automatically put your name or whoever else's name with the right address and maybe a different picture depending on what the major they're emailing you about. It was really impressive to see. It was like a mail merge on steroids from Microsoft Word. Because mail merge it just does text. This did pictures and graphics and all sorts of other crazy things, and it was really impressive to see. Microsoft Publisher is also another one that has the familiar interface to Microsoft Office applications, and does enable you to use information from other applications. You have Bitmap Graphics, so this is just a graphic picture. All this is a bitmap picture. For those who don't know, how many of you guys have heard of? Hopefully, you've all heard of a BMP or a JPEG, JPG. All right. These are just pixelated pictures in the long run. Now, how many of you heard of an SVG? All right, one person raising their hand at least. That's the vector graphic. But anyway, a bitmap graphic is an image composed of pixels. Each pixel is a color that we normally either do RGB with, so red, green, blue, so you can define basically every color as a combination of those three, or you can define it using CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and key. And key stands for black. So when you're printing things on paper, you use CMYK. When you're doing videos, you're doing RGB. Kind of crazy how that works. But anyway, so each pixel is just a value. So it's like, okay, it's pure green. That'd be 02550. But problem with anything that's pixels is as you enlarge it, it gets fuzzy, it gets blurry, right? Or it gets really weird looking because it's pixelated. It's like steppy because software doesn't know how to do that. Now, some software like Photoshop has enlarging capabilities that will guesstimate. So once you enlarge it so much, it'll put another pixel between those two and it'll average the two like all around it to come up with what that value should be. So that way it's actually trying to make the image higher resolution than it actually is. So it's scaling it and increasing the resolution to try to keep that picture crisp. It doesn't work all the time, and it only works to a certain extent. However, with vector graphics or SVGs, these are all actually based on math. So if you have a line on a screen, you have an arrow. If you take a picture of an arrow sign and you blow it up, it's going to get fuzzy. It's going to get funky. But if you have an SVG of an arrow, as you blow it up, you're just saying, all right, the line A is from x0, y0 to x2, y2, or whatever the case is. And as you blow it up, it just goes, oh, instead of x2, y2, it's going to use x3, y3, and it makes the line longer. So it's actually doing math to keep the ratios of everything. So that way it is an actual crisp line in that image. And this is why vector graphics or SVGs are actually absolutely great for whatever you can use them for, because it keeps all of that nice precision. So that's why people like to create their logos in SVGs, because they can shrink them down to a business card, or they can blow them up to be a billboard, and the resolution is still perfect. It's not fuzzy at all. You could be right up on that billboard, like an inch away, and you would still see a hard line there instead of a fuzziness going on. So SVGs are absolutely wonderful. They also tell you like how wide the line is. So it's like, oh, this line is 1 pixel thick, and then as you enlarge it, it's like, oh, now it's 3 pixels thick. So it actually is able to change that for you. Again, really useful thing. Next, we've got streaming in the world of AV software. How many of you guys watch live videos? A bunch of you guys, awesome. I'm actually getting some people participating. I like it. Whether that's Twitch and you're watching people play video games, whether you're watching live news, you're watching the football games live, whatever the case is. Streaming is, as I call it, live-ish. All right. Yes, it's live, right? It's near real time, but it's not actually real time. Even radio shows, most of those are not real time. All right. If you listen to any talk shows on the radio waves, there's one back from Philadelphia I used to listen to. Is the Preston and Steve show. Absolutely, completely hilarious. Very inappropriate, but hilarious. They had a dump button. So basically, when someone on the show would say something that they weren't allowed to broadcast, they had a button that would mute out the last 30 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever of the audio. And because of them being live-ish, they were 30 seconds or whatever ahead, there was no break for you. It wasn't like there was 10 seconds of quiet. It was, instantly it just cut that out and then moved everything up 10 seconds. So that's why I call it live-ish. All right, so not a perfect system, but it's pretty close to being live. The other thing with streaming is traditionally we're doing a little bit of a lower quality stream. All right. Now, ideally, or really at this point, our quality for the stream, that's iffy. What do you qualify as lower quality? Is 1080p lower quality? No, I like 1080p, right? It's a nice HD signal. It looks great on screens, your phone, computer monitors, even like 50, 60-inch screens, 1080p still looks overall fine. You get really close, you can see the pixels, but from here, that projector is probably either 1080p or 720p, like not even that great. You get really close, and you can very easily see all the pixels on that screen. But 1080p, perfect for most things. Yet, that's lower quality when you think about you could be streaming in 1440 or 2K or 4K or 8K nowadays. All right, but we have to take into account the bandwidth that we have for streaming this. All right, so if you only have a 50 megabyte internet connection, but you also need to do XYZ P and Q with that, you might only have 25 megs for uploading that video. So you need to make sure that your bandwidth that you have for uploading and downloading is capable of handling that live stream. So, that's a little bit of an interesting thing. Next, we've got screen capture software. That's what I'm using right now. I'm actually using OBS, which is Open Broadcast Studio. The software I'm using is actually overall designed for being used with live things. Like, okay, I can have multiple video feeds. I can press some shortcuts and jump between feed A and feed B and feed C. I could have graphic overlays. I could have text or whatever I want, and I can be editing my next screen on the fly. So I could be like, okay, I need to move some text around, I need to add some text, hit a button, now it shows up live for you, and it fades in or whatever, however I have it set up for. I just use it for screen capture because it's free and allows me to have lots of control over things. For this purpose, any screen capture would work, but when I'm at home and I'm doing software for other classes and things, where I need to jump between like a video of me and my screen and the software, it allows me to transition much, much quicker. But anyway, screen capture software captures your screen. You've got Camtasia is one that many of you probably have heard of. You have ShareX, which is another one. I believe Camtasia is paid where ShareX is free. So OBS is free. It is a little bit complicated to use, but once you understand it, it is glorious. Last on the screen, we have DRM. Who's heard of that? You all should have heard of that by now. DRM, which is your digital rights management. This imposes restrictions to digital media files. This is why you can't buy a file from Apple and then just share it to all your friends and say, here guys, I have the CD, listen to the music. No, you buy it from Apple, you can't share it, right? It's like your account, maybe your family you can share to, but like not for your friends. You can't just be like, hey, borrow this for a week. All right, even on Kindles, it's like, okay, you bought a book from Amazon for your Kindle. All well and good. I think Amazon lets you share that book like 2 or 3 times at most. I think actually it might be once, and that's like for the lifetime of that book. It's not like, oh, once a year you can share this. It's like, no, you can loan it to somebody once. Like, I bought the book. You buy a book from the library or bookstore, whatever, you can be like, here, Bob, have it. I'm done with it. You can just give it to them. Not with these books. You probably, if you haven't already, started noticing that anything that you're doing electronically has a lot more restrictions on it, especially with music, books, movies, those types of things. So DRM does keep you from copying them, or at least it's supposed to. And this is meant to protect the owners of digital media, which, to be fair, I think is something that should be done. If you buy a movie, you shouldn't be able to just copy it and give it to all your friends and all watch it at the same time. However, I think to some extent they've taken it a little bit too far. It's like, I bought the movie, I should let my friends be able to borrow it when I want. Now, I'm okay with me saying, hey, Bob, you can borrow this, but then I can't watch it. I am fully on board with that because it's like giving a DVD to your friend, letting them watch it. But we've definitely kind of gotten a little bit past that, I'm going to call it. We also have the DMCA, which is your Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And this is what made it illegal to remove DRM for protected files. So you're not supposed to do this. Now, some of you may be going, I've got these DVDs. I want to put them on my computer so I can watch them that way. That is a very fine line from my understanding. Most companies are like, nope, that's against the rules. Buy the digital version if you want it on your computer. But it's at the same point, it's kind of like, well, I want to be able to back up my data. You know, if a fire happens and I have DVDs in it, I want to still be able to have whatever's on said DVD. So my understanding, it's somewhat of a fine line. However, it's not, be careful. That's all I'm going to say. All right, it's not me to tell you copyright law. I do not know copyright law. I am not a lawyer. So me even saying it's fine line is probably pushing my luck. So I'll just change my saying. You should not do this, is what I'm going to say. Now, how do you obtain software nowadays? All right, there are a lot of different options. So we have, for licensing, we have retail software. So there is a fee for this software, but it has an unlimited time period. So you go buy the old school version of Microsoft Office. They give you a license key, you put it on your computer, you can use it for a lifetime. All right. Next, you have subscriptions, like Adobe is now, which is either monthly or a yearly fee. So it's like, okay, I want to use this software for a year. And they're like, all right, that's going to cost you $200. It's like, damn, okay, fine. Here's $200 for the year. The next year, here's another $200. All right. As I said, most things are going to subscriptions, and I freaking hate it. There is a safety device that is designed for motorcyclists that's basically a wearable airbag. So it's this jacket that has airbags that will like inflate when it thinks that you've entered into a crash. And from my understanding is there is a monthly fee for that thing to work. I'm like, it's not like you're using any of your servers to do this. This is just you saying, screw you, we want more money. The same thing is going for heated seats in cars. They're starting to go this route. It's like, oh, you want to use your heated seats? You have to have this monthly service. Like, you gotta be kidding me, right? That's just ridiculous. But anyway, that's a subscription, monthly or yearly fee. Next, we have freeware. There is no fee with an unlimited time period. This is not normally going to be open source. All right. You've got Shareware, which is a trial version, limited period of time. This might not have all the features of the final product. It might have a watermark, something like that. But yeah, it's trying to it's the nice thing about Shareware. It's letting you try the software before you buy it. So it's like, all right, I think I want to use this video editor. You download, you learn how to use it. You haven't spent any money on it, maybe just some time, and you're like, this sucks. Let me try a different one. You can try a different one. And finally you have the one you like. I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to buy. Get rid of the watermark off the screen, those types of things. You've got donationware, which is where donations are accepted by the developers. And then you have freemium. All right. Freemium is also the world we're living in. So subscriptions and freemium, I would say, are the ones that are like really taking off right now. So the freemium is a free app, but it has in-app purchases. So it's like, oh yeah, you can use our software, but we're not going to let you export your file to this file format. You want to do that, you have to pay us, $2 or something. And that could be a one-time fee, it could be a monthly fee, or it could be a retail license where it's forever. So a little bit of give and take going on that. Yeah, so free to download, additional features, game levels, content can be purchased for a small one-time payment or via subscription. All right, so a little bit going on there. Now, when it comes to purchasing things, when was the last time someone in here actually bought an app or software for your computer or phone? This week? This month? This year? No one in here buys anything. I understand. Okay. I'm glad that you're living so cheap. Awesome. I really am. If you're really not spending money on apps, good for you. It's actually, for me, it's been a while too. It's been a very long time. I have Google Play Funny Money that expires every year, so it's from doing opinions and things like that for Google. So I've got that. So I do actually once in a while. I'm like, I got like $30 in Google Play Money right now to spend, and some of it starts to expire in December. So I'm like, I got to go spend some of that, like $10, $15, just go buy some silly app or something I might be interested in, things like that. So that's how I end up buying things in the Google App Store. But anyway, when it comes to buying things, you can buy things in app stores. So Microsoft has an app store now. Google has an app store. Apple has an app store. Amazon has an app store. If you didn't know that, you can actually have the Amazon App Store on your Android device. All right. There is a big legal battle right now with Apple, Google, and the makers of what video game is that? I can't think of the video game. But anyway, the video game publisher broke their license agreement. Then they sued Apple for it, saying, you can't do this within the license agreement. And so, anyway, big battle right now. But basically, this person's calling Apple and Google a duopoly, saying, you two are the only way. So if I don't follow your rules, I can't get on an iPhone. Okay, for those who are iPhone people, if the app is not in the App Store, you're out of luck. Either develop it yourself or you're out of luck. Those are your two options. And to get things in the App Store is like the most ridiculous process in the world. It's like, okay, you want me to make this change? I made that. They're like, no, you didn't. It's like, yeah, I did. Oh, you can't advertise that you can buy your app somewhere else in the app itself. Like, okay, so if I want to, if I don't want to have the App Store take 15 or 30% of my revenue, I have to just have it available on my website and direct you there somehow without being in the app. Like all sorts of crazy things. So it's big problem going on right now, app stores. So you have purchasing at the App Store that for specific apps. You could do in-app purchases. All right. You could go to some brick and mortar stores. You could go to Best Buy and be like, hey, I want to buy a video game. Right there. Boom. Got my software. You could go to websites. So it's like, okay, let me just go to a website. Here's my credit card, and they let me have a software download. All right. And the big thing here, really, when it comes to all these things is how are you getting whatever it is that you bought? Are you getting it via download? Are you getting it via CD or DVD or on a flash drive? I really thought CD DVDs were going to die on us and flash drives are going to be the way to get software. You'd buy something at a store and have a little flash drive, you plug that in, it'd have the installer on it. I really thought that was going to be the way we moved like 5-10 years ago when flash drives started becoming very cheap and very plentiful, but not the case. So CD, DVDs still exist, but for the most part nowadays, we are downloading things off the internet. You do a web search, you find it, it's like, okay, I've got to buy, you put your credit card information on the website, and they go, here's the download for you. All right. My problem with downloads is for people who don't manage it correctly. It's like, okay, you've downloaded it, you've installed it. What happens in 6 months when your computer crashes and you need to re-download that? Do you remember who you bought it from? Do you have the receipt still? Can you get a download from them? Do you remember your login credentials? There's so many problems to me with downloading your installers that you have paid for without them having a good quality app store, basically. So like the Google App Store, I think it's perfectly fine if you want to buy something from them because once you're signed in, you can see a list of all the things that you've bought. Also with the Google App Store, and the only reason I know is because I'm a Google person, you can have a family set up. So if I buy an app, anyone in my 5-person family can access that download. So it's not like everyone has to download the same app going on everyone's phones. You can pay for it once and we can all get it. So that's really convenient. But as I said, if you buy software with a download, you download it, I highly suggest you back up that installer. Have a folder on your computer. That's where you just dump any installers that are important to you. Anything that you need to keep your computer up and running when you first do a fresh install or something like that. So that way, when you upgrade your computer or when your computer crashes and burns, you at least hopefully have a folder full of downloads that you can just go, okay, I need to run this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. They may be out of date, but at least they should install and get you up and running again until you can go find the newest version or update it itself. So having an external hard drive or server, NAS, something to dump those files to, those installers to, will be very useful to you and in your future life. You will thank yourself. All right, this is one of those, that's future Greg problem, right? That's not my issue. Great, I'll worry about that in the future when I get there. Save yourself that hassle and just keep a backup of things. Now, the cloud computing. All right. Like I said, this is a love-hate relationship, cloud computing. Anything cloud-related. So, cloud computing makes it convenient to access your data from different places and devices. That's great. All right. Cloud storage is online, so your data is available via the internet. That's great. I can access my stuff from anywhere I want. Many options for home users are free. Awesome. I like free, as I've already said today. Open source is kind of my friend. Awesome. Many companies and organizations also use cloud to reduce their infrastructure costs for servers and network hardware. So they're not having to buy stuff up front, they're just paying a license fee. That's good. But as I've said, anything with the cloud is, do you trust? Do you trust them? All right. I've read stories. So just today, I read a news article. Someone made basically a duplicate, I think it was of Instagram. People have been pissed off at Instagram recently because they're pushing reels on everybody, and they're flooding their news feeds with this crap that they don't care about, and there's no way for them to tell Instagram, stop showing me this crap. So someone said, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. And they reverse engineered the Android API, and they created basically an Instagram website that uses your Instagram credentials to log in, but only shows you, I guess, stuff that you've picked or something like that. And Instagram, not obviously happy about this. Their license says this is not allowed, so this person is in the wrong. But because Instagram is owned by Facebook, they decided we're going to block every person who works at that company's Facebook page, so they are permanently banned from Facebook now. Yeah, well, I don't use Instagram, so I am not up to date on my lovely world of sharing things. I am still a Facebook user, but mainly for Facebook Marketplace. But that is off topic. Yeah, that's about all I do on Facebook. Is great place for buying used things if you know what you're looking for. But anyway, but they ban these people. It's like this was someone's personal account. This wasn't even linked to the company, but Facebook Meta said, "Hey, I know this person works there. I know they worked on this, so we're going to ban them on Facebook." Facebook has every right to ban you for basically whatever reason they want. Now, again, if you read the license, actually read the EULA, which we'll talk about on the next slide, there's some loopholes in there that kind of basically say, yeah, they can just ban me for whatever reason they want. And now I've lost access to that. So if the system that you're using is now how you access your bank account, or all your passwords were stored there, or whatever the case is, you're just up a creek without a paddle now. So you do need to be very careful about trusting the cloud. This is one of the reasons why I've tried to set up my own cloud on my house. So I have it, but it's my own stuff. I can control it. Doesn't protect me from fires. That's the downside. That's something I keep bringing back, isn't it? Fires. It's not a good thing. Next up there, we have infrastructure as a service. We've already hit this up like 2 or 3 times, but enables businesses to use service in the cloud rather than purchasing and maintaining their own servers. You have CSPs, or cloud service providers, who work to offer very secure environments and protect the data. We have SaaS, which we've already talked about. This is web apps, basically. Just want to hit that up again. So Microsoft Office Online, Google Drive are examples of SaaS. You have your learning management systems, which is D2L. If you were here long ago, which probably since you were all in this class, you were not. And by long ago, I mean like 5 years ago. I hope you haven't been here that long. Hope you graduated by now. But maybe you just keep coming back for more. We use Moodle here before this. You also have Blackboard as another option, not at HCC, but some colleges use Blackboard, some use Google Classroom. There's a boatload of learning management systems out there. This is a SaaS application. And these aren't just used by schools. They're also maybe used by some corporations for internal training. So basically internal schooling. So you might still see these used at a corporation. And then you have PaaS, or Platform as a Service. And this companies can develop, test, and deploy custom web applications using the cloud. This makes collaboration easier and requires less programming knowledge. All right, so when it comes to license agreements, have any of you ever actually completely read a license agreement? Yeah, I don't think you have a whole one? Holy, it must have been a very simple one. Okay, good for you. I don't think I've even read through a whole license agreement in my life. This is supposed to be things you are allowed to do, things you aren't allowed to do with the software. All right. Yeah, they're normally, I'm going to call them, saying, written in legalese, which makes it the average person very hard to understand what they are and aren't allowed to do. Supposedly, years ago, one of the versions of Windows, there was a clause in the license agreement that said Bill Gates could come to your house and take one item he wanted, or something like that. Again, I don't know how true that is, but if that was actually true, it's freaking hilarious that everybody still agreed to that license agreement. Again, I don't actually know, but it's so stupid it could just be true. It's one of those things. Like, could be, maybe. Like, I'm the type of person that want to like try to slide it in there and see if I can get it past everybody. It's just like, yeah, no one's gonna read this anyway. We just put it on. um, yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. It's like if you're trying to install software, you're like, yes, this location's fine. Yes, I agree to this. Yes, I agree to that. I don't care about that. No, don't install the damn toolbar. Hopefully, you remember to hit no to the toolbar option. Oh, it's also been a while since I've installed that type of crap that tried to install toolbars on me. So it's kind of interesting. Anyway, software license is a contract that gives you the right to install and use software applications on one or more computers. This is known as the EULA, E-U-L-A. This is the end user license agreement, and the license should be carefully reviewed prior to installation. Yeah, that's the part that no one does. With license agreements, you have product keys. It's a code that you type when requested as you install the software. It enables the publisher to confirm that the product was purchased legally. It's a good idea to keep in a file of product keys in case you ever have to reinstall the software. Kind of like keeping the installer there. You have two types of software licenses, proprietary and open source. We've already hit that up. You have what's called site licenses, and this enables them to install a software application on a specific number of computers. So we have what's called floating licenses here for my PLC software. We have 12 licenses. I can have the software installed on every computer on campus. I can only use it on 12 at a time. So once that 13 person tries to use it, it just says, nope, no license available. When someone lines out, the other person can log in. You also have volume licensing, which allows you to purchase multiple installations of the application using the same product key. And some organizations might purchase per seat licenses, which assigns a product key to individual users. So little things going on there. And last but not least, we have communications. All right. When it comes to businesses, you want to hopefully have CRM, which is your customer relations management system. This is used to maintain customer information, and this tracks your interactions with customers. Now, I would put money that all of you have some sort of CRM database on you at many stores. How many of you have the stupid, promo cards that you scan to get the discounts? That is tracking you. That's the whole point of them. They don't want to give you the money off, but they want to know, oh, Bob bought this. He bought toilet paper today. In a month, oh, Bob bought toilet paper again. He uses that once a month. In 3 weeks, we should send him a coupon for another one, so he buys 2 rolls next time instead of 1, And they're constantly playing this game with you. So anytime you have the little store card, they're tracking you with that. They might track you with Wi-Fi credentials, like if your phone logs into Starbucks every Wednesday. We talked about the whole MAC address randomization to try to keep them from tracking you. But they could track you that way. They can track you so many different ways from Sunday. It's kind of crazy and creepy at this point. As I don't think I've told you guys yet. If you want to live in a world where you are not tracked, go live in a cave. That's your only option. And you need to be self-sufficient in that cave. Because you're like, no, I can live in the woods. They can't track me. Oh, there are satellites flying over you. All right. So you want to be tracked? Go live in a cave. That's about your only option. Preferably one that's like 300 feet underground or something like that. So you got no RF coming in after you. It's going to make it very hard to live, but that's about your only option if you don't want to be tracked. So they will use this information for marketing, sales, customer service. They try to detect patterns like people buying toilet paper. I used to work at CVS, and there'd be the promo toilet paper on sale, and CVS would say, you guys need 2 pallets of toilet paper for this sale. And my boss would be like, we don't need 2 pallets of toilet paper for this sale. We would sell like 1.5 pounds. Like most of what they sent us, we would sell in that week. I cannot tell you how many cases of water we sold in a week. Now, I was also working in a beach town. So people would come, drive down to the shore, get their rental property for the week. They'd go buy 2 or 3 cases of water. But I mean, we went through pallets and pallets and pallets of water a week. It was crazy. Be like, oh yeah, we got a truck coming today. We got a truck twice a week. There's 4 pallets of water on that truck. All because of sales, baby. What sold it. But anyway, yeah. So they're collecting analytics, they're trying to detect patterns, and they're trying to improve their customer service and raise profits. That's what they're doing when they're trying to track you. That's CRM for you. Next, we have got SMS. You all should have heard of SMS before. All right, this is a short message service. This is also known as a text message. If you are sending text, and only text, to one person. All right, if you're doing more than text, which would be images, emojis might qualify as text nowadays. I'm not positive where they fall. But if you're sending pictures, videos, or to multiple people, you're not actually sending an SMS anymore. You're actually sending an MMS, or a multimedia message service. that one can go to multiple people. So that's how the group text messaging works. And then you also have messaging apps. All right. Facebook Messenger is probably the most widely one I know of. iMessage on your Apple phone if you're an Apple person. All right. You have Discord. All right. If you anyone here used Discord before? Bunch of you. Awesome. WhatsApp. How about that one? Anybody? WhatsApp? People. Cool. Telegram. No one uses Telegram. They're like, what the hell is Telegram? Don't ask me. And the benefit to some of these apps is they may be encrypted or have the capability of being encrypted. So if you want a more secure system, go look for an encrypted messaging system. All right. Now, one thing I want to point out to you guys, when you're sending an SMS or an MMS, you are qualifying, when you're sending those on your phone, you are sending a text message. So it is going, even though the MS aren't actually text, but they still qualify. You are sending those the phone waves as a text message. So your carrier is charging you as it is a text message. So if you have unlimited texting, send as much as you want. If you're using one of the other ones, so I said iMessage, Discord, WhatsApp, Telegram, Google Hangouts is another one, Microsoft Teams, you can send messages that way. That is actually using data. That is not going over your texting system. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. If you have limited data, you may not want to be sending those types of messages. You may want to use text messaging. So just kind of something to think about in that background of yours. Maybe you've got unlimited data, you don't give a damn. Good for you. Send whatever you want, watch whatever YouTube video you want. I can tell you, when I first got my phone, all I had was a phone. Then when I was in college, my mom decided that we were missing out as kids, and we needed texting, so we got texting. And then a few years later, my mom decided we were missing out again, so we got internet on our phones, or the plan just got upgraded to internet. I don't know which one. And now at this point, I have T-Mobile, and I have unlimited data. So I've come a long way from having my cell phone back when I was 16, and all I could do was make phone calls. To now I can, basically do whatever I want on my phone. So kind of an interesting thing there. All right, that is all I got for Chapter 6.